feel like I'm getting somewhere. I think I've got a creation idea in mind. I do believe this here is going to be my burner tube. This is probably a 1.25 inch by 1/8 inch wall piece of tubing. I have this plate that I cut out, and it's going to have probably 4-inch legs on it, just to raise it off the bottom of the tank. And this is going to go up into here probably 4 inches, maybe 6 inches, something like that. And this big bearing is going to be welded in. So this is going to end up being an assembly. It's going to be welded, okay? Legs on it. The legs will be sticking through probably a 1/2 inch. And then once I finish welding the base into this, I put 3 holes in it that are going to align here. Not like that was very necessary at this point, but I figured it'd be good just to hold it in place. Then this will sit like that. It'll align on those 3 holes. And then this tube here, at this point, we will, I'm going to try to stick it in the tubing bender and put a 90-degree on it, so that way I can shoot it outside the back of the tank for my air inlet. I'll drill my holes for my burner, weld a cap, and that will be my burner assembly. I have welded this base in, and I've heard a couple cracks and pops, so I don't know if I'll need to use these nuts, if it'll help, I don't know. This is welded in. This is an assembly currently, and I can just drop that in. So it's time to work on this burner. We talk about these rotors being used as burners or diffusers. Most of these rotors that I have are kind of blocked. Like, they really won't work. They could be good caps, I guess. We're gonna get those out of the way. It's almost time to clean the shop again. Jeepers, a lot of mess. But it's kind of challenging to get these in here, so we'll have to see about locating them and maybe some pins or something that drop down. But I have everything in there, and I think if I am careful and methodical about assembly, I'll be able to get them in or out to maintain this thing. Now, I do have this burner down in there, or the first brake rotor, the burn pot, I guess we can call it, and it can be assembled. With these rotors stacked, and they have quite good ventilation, I have from the top of this third one to the bottom of that a 7-inch possible burner tube. So if we have this and we drill a bunch of tiny little holes in here, I actually even thought about just using the plasma cutter and just riddling it with holes, but I don't know if that's going to be a smart idea or not. I could just lay out a grid and drill. With that, a 7-inch long burner and all of this thermal mass, I'm pretty sure this is going to create a lot of heat, for sure. Unfortunately, my 1.25-inch die for my bender here is a 4-inch radius. And if I had a 4-inch bend that started at the base of that, I would basically be cutting like a, I don't know, 6-inch long channel in the bottom of that tank to run that tube through. Alternatively, I don't think I have enough room at the bottom of this tank to run the pipe straight down and then bend it. So I might have to just do a cut and 45 the pipe and weld it back together. So here is my burner pre-drilled. I'm going to have to cut it at a 45, weld it back together, and I have this drop that I'm just going to weld right there to cap the top and hopefully make it so it diffuses fire out instead of up. I also added a group of holes here on the bottom, and that's going to be pointed towards where the oil drip is. So it should get a little bit more air than everything else. Now, if I can figure out what blower I want, I did have a air mattress blower pump, but it was cracked. This would be something that I would really appreciate giving it a light, giving it some oil, and seeing how that flame looks as it's burning. I've never done this before. I've worked with water heaters, I've worked with furnaces, but I've never tried to create my own controlled burn from start to finish. So this is exciting. This is very fun, and I'm looking forward to being able to utilize this thing. So this is my burner assembly, my fire pot with a steel base welded into it. I have enough stick out that I can run some 3/8 nuts on those studs if I feel like I need to. I have 3 race car brake rotors and a 3/16 inch thick cap to diffuse the flames out of these rotors. I have to say this is exciting and a little bit nerve-wracking all at the same time, and I want to make sure that I am safe more than anything. And one thing I see is the potential for oil to drip down in here, and there's no gasket sealing this burn pot, and so if oil gets down there and happens to fill under there, I don't want that to happen. So this is about 3 inches. This is a 4-inch piece of pretty heavy wall tubing. So what I think I'm going to do is just weld that in about like that, and then take it apart and cut it off about 1 inch high. Just reach in there with a plasma cutter and just rip it. So that way this becomes a basin and the oil will drip in here. The air will come through the burner, which will be exposed, but there won't be a way for the oil to run between the plates and get down low. I do believe that now I might be ready for a test fire. That guard that I put in might be a little bit too tall for the air to actually get through there, so I might have to trim that down a little bit. So here we are with our pump duct taped on. I'm up in the air about this. I received this thing cracked from Amazon, but I do believe it's just this housing. I could probably glue that or even leave it be. I might even modify it and partially block the air inlet depending on how this works. So I took a piece of, what is that, about 3/8 inch tubing, and I just crudely chopped it with the hacksaw. I made a mark that I can stick it about that far in, and it should drip down, okay? I'm going to barely nip this jug, and I'm also going to throw some used oil down in there. Now this is pretty thick oil. It's cold. It's not preheated or anything like that. I would like to improve upon that. But for the sake of it, that's that. Now, I'm going to start with one of these rotors. And I don't know if I'm going to be able to do all of this. Maybe I could figure out how to clamp this in place. Stage fright. It's a real thing. It's really kicking in. Good enough. All right. I'm going to see if I can start this little piece of rag on fire that's got a little oil in it. Maybe a little more oil in it. I think the only thing that's burning is my rag that was in there. I don't know if my blower is just too weak. I'm going to throw more rag in there, see if I can get more heat. I think maybe my burner is too tall and needs to be as short as this drum. I think too much air is getting out before it lights fire. It's getting dirty like this too, so I'm going to turn it on and burn it out. While this is burning down, I don't really have anything to lose, but I hope that maybe I have something to gain. This is just normal duct tape and I don't expect it to last. But I'm going to see if I can block the top of those holes off and see what happens. That's pretty cool. What a difference. It seems like the wind and a little bit of snow is doing a better job at keeping the fire going than my blower and my silly burner. I think that tray on the inside is way too tall and I need to shorten that burner. You can see I duct taped quite a bit of it, but with the water, that's where it's at. I need it to get hot and atomized. All right, things are getting a little bit crazy here. I just whipped that up. You can tell I used a lot of strategery and precision. These are all about 2" by 1" plates. I don't even know how many there are there. And I just kind of held them in place and burned them in, and the dimension is about as fat as my fingers. I trimmed this ledge down, and remember, this is here to kind of contain the oil within this basin and not allow it to drain out. So I welded a washer into here. There's a big long 3/8 bolt, so it just drops in, and I am no longer worried about orientation of where those holes are. I can have my drip tube wherever I want. I also kind of don't have to worry about my depth of insertion either. I might even bring it all the way to the center, whether I do it something like this or not. My thought process here is that once everything gets good and hot, it'll kind of atomize and dance on this plate, and hopefully it'll just help to swirl. I might try here to begin with, and definitely would help to have some warmer, thinner oil to be burning. But I definitely think that this diffuser here is going to help to swirl the air and get a more complete burn. I was quite unwhelmed on how well this big tall burner was doing. I think this is going to be the key. So for this test, I'm not even going to add oil. I did soak these chunks of rag in oil, but I want to just verify that this creates some type of a vortex. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to light these, turn the blower on, put those rotors on, and then maybe this lid if it works well. I think it was an improvement. I don't know how much you could see from the camera view, but it definitely did swirl. I would be happier, I think, with a bigger blower. I mean, I guess what do you expect for less than 20 bucks? But it would definitely be nicer to have a bigger blower. Somebody on the Facebook page, Waste Oil Burners, had mentioned the magiciry of these burners once they're in a vessel and once they have draft up a chimney. So I decided that the improvements I've made on this burner will definitely pay off when there's a good draft. So I used a little bit of common sense knowledge, and I went off of my 5.5 inch diameter with a flat. I measured from here to here was about 2 inches. From here to here is about 3 1/8. Laid that out on the back, and I have a little bit more to clear. I can always cut more, so I'm gonna trim that up, get that burner laid in, and see what it looks like. All right, that's looking pretty good. A little more trimming, a little more fitting. I might even just see if I can manipulate that hole from the other side. There. I think it's perfect. Yes, indeed. That's awesome. I really like that. Now you can see what I can see. So welding is generally about 80% comfort and 20% preparation, I have found. There was no control or comfort welding that, but I think it'll work. I'm gonna put a beater on the backside as well, but I just wanted to make sure that for whatever reason, any oil that could possibly run down the tank would run away from that. So I got a good bead around the top and just to the bottom sides. I can seal it up on the back side as well. And I guess my hack job with the plasma cutter was pretty good. Pretty soon we'll have a certifiable pressurized tank again.